Good morning, everybody. It is wonderful Wednesday morning. Today, we're here on the Everyday Riches Show. I am Pat Knauer. I'm a business coach and marketing strategist, and I help businesses grow to be enormous. If you want real growth in your business, talk to me. And I'm here with my co-host, Barbara Ellison.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am your personality pro because personality does drive reality. And I'm all about, making happiness the norm rather than the exception. So, part of that is getting along with the people around you because I think you've heard me say my philosophy is you can't do life on your own. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Everyday Riches Show.
And today we have the amazing, oh my gosh, it's going to be such a hot, great show. Oh my gosh. We've got Olivia here this morning. And if you have never been around Olivia Parr, she is a wisdomologist. I know, right? Isn't that just the coolest thing or what? So Olivia is a global thought leader, award-winning and best-selling author, expert data scientist, and founder of the Wisdom Institute, which is a platform for wisdom keepers to discover, package, and share the wisdom with the world. We all need that. After retiring from her career as a data scientist, Olivia realized that she and many others hold valuable wisdom that is often lost to younger generations. Through the Wisdom Institute, Olivia and her partners offer courses, consulting, and mentoring. Olivia has a BA in mathematics and MS in statistics, and clients include Cisco, Walmart, Wells Fargo, State Farm, HP, IBM, SAS, Xerox, Nationwide, Liberty Mutual, HSBC, Fleet Bank, and Clorox. I've got to tell you, she's a slacker, isn't she? Olivia, I'm so glad to have you here this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's my treat. Thanks.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. How the heck did you end up being a wisdomologist?
Well, it's a great story, and I think speaks to a lot of people, probably in our generation, where early in our lives we took the practical route, right? So I was a really creative child, very into mystical stuff, reading about paranormal and spiritual things as a child, and then was so ADD that I couldn't deal with school. But math came easily, so that just sort of was where I ended up. And we were expected to go to college, so I studied math, but I had a lot of personal trauma too, losing my parents and being in this really near-death experience in a car accident. So as a young adult, I was pretty lost. I was sick, I had no parents, and ended up, as I was pretty wounded, a lot of abandonment issues, right? Got into a marriage that, kind of met me where I was for spiritual growth. And then started having children, which was a real opening for me to find my strength. But I knew I wanted to get back into the business world. And by then I'd done so much spiritual work. I really wanted to go into psychology. But a friend of mine said that there were just a lot. It was difficult to get a job as a social worker. And so I should use my math skills. And I thought, okay, that's the practical thing, right? We want to be responsible. By this time, my husband was having health issues, and I was concerned I might have to become the breadwinner, which actually did happen. So I ended up going back to school, getting a master's degree in statistics, and then landed in the corporate world. And after being kind of this earth mom and spiritual seeker, it was really shocking. It was a trauma to my system. I just couldn't believe people lived in this fear, and I was sort of stuck there. But I started making a name for myself as a data scientist. I wrote a book that became a global bestseller, and I kept getting messages in my meditations that this wasn't my real work, but I didn't know what my real work was. Meanwhile, I was speaking all over the world. I was doing training, and at these conferences, they'd ask me, like, what do you want to talk about? So I'd always do something on data science, but I'd also offer courses on the importance of good communication and creativity and things that were sort of dismissed in a lot of corporate environments. And they loved it, but it was not anything that I had credentials, so I couldn't really make a living doing that. So I then just decided to start writing about what I knew, and I wrote a book on the importance of business human competencies in business. And I pulled in, we were talking about, the quantum physics and evolutionary biology and all these things that now, with the way the world is changing so quickly, the corporations that have the top-down fear-based models just aren't efficient enough. They need to really empower people to stay competitive, which is so exciting because it means that people are being valued more heavily, and the companies that are doing well are those companies. So that sort of inspired me to write a book called Love at Work in 2018, I think it was, where I argue and I show data along that style, right, to prove that companies that treat their people well actually make more money. So then I was thinking, like, what is my role here? Because I didn't really want to do data science anymore, but I had this credibility in the corporate world. So I looked around at what I knew, and I know people who have wonderful knowledge, many of them in our age groups that don't have any access. So I decided to birth the Wisdom Institute, which is just in its formation stage. So there's really no presence yet online, but it's going to be a place for people who have wisdom. And I want to get that to the corporate world because I feel like my purpose is to bring love into business. And I have a tagline, love, make it your business. So this is really kind of how it all started. And I'm also helping people bring their wisdom forward.
So Olivia, what is the difference between wisdom and knowledge?
Well, I kind of define wisdom as the overlap between what we've studied, maybe our life experience, and then also what we get from our intuition or higher guidance. So knowledge is great. We can learn that in school, but we really have to overlay that with our inner truth and our vast experience. There's people that don't ever study in a formal setting that have much more knowledge and wisdom, I think, than many that do have PhDs and all that.
Yeah, because we all have wisdom of some sort. It's what we're born with, right? And it's the experiences that we accumulate over time contributes to our wisdom base. And I don't know about you, but I have seen a lot of gurus out there talking about, use your wisdom and create a course, create a program, create this, go coach, do whatever, without the real foundational knowledge of how to actually use it. Is that one of the things you teach in your company?
Yeah, I do. I work with people. I mean, I don't go and take people who are already sharing. I might give them a platform if I feel like their work's valuable. But I also want to take perhaps that person who's retired and just has vast wisdom from either their career or their life or both, and help them find their voice either through speaking or writing or teaching or coaching, mentoring, just to help them form the wisdom, put it into a form that can be or package it really, and also tap into their purpose to know that alignment. Because I think once we find that alignment with our purpose, it gives us the fuel to work through the blocks. Like what holds me accountable in my world is that I have had so much trauma, and I feel like if I don't, now that I know what my purpose is, if I don't do that in my life, if I don't act on that, I might have to come back and go through this life again. I don't know, that's in the belief system, but it keeps me motivated. Like, okay, I got the lesson. I'm doing it. Please, give me joy and happiness and peace and health and all that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's what is part. It's so cool that when you say that, because that's part of me, is that when a friend of mine said to me, she said, well, Barb, what do you want? And I said, I just want people to be happy. Oh. And that statement out of my mouth, once that came out of my mouth, it's like everything has now fallen into place, because that was the underlying thing. I want happiness to be the norm rather than the exception. And so now everything that I'm doing now of teaching people how to get along with the people around them by knowing what their personality is, because there is such a gap between how people approach other people and what the other person is hearing, and whether that's a personal relationship or a business relationship. And it is so cool when people, it's like, oh, that's why you do that. and they can see it, and it makes a difference. So it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah. And in fact, I'm reading a book. I just got it, and it's called Is Damn Good Business by Steve Barber.
Oh,
I am loving it because exactly what you were just talking about is what they are proving beyond any doubt, that the companies that put love into that they love what they do, and in service of the people who love what they do.
who do what they
And
love.
I'm
Yeah.
absolutely
I actually
loving it.
I actually
Doing
spoke
what
at
they
his
love.
conference at his Extreme Leadership Conference last
Oh,
year.
yeah.
And I've done his LEAP training, so I'm certified in love,
Yes.
energy, accountability, and proof. It's just awesome. Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Yeah. I'm just
That's
reading
great.
about his LEAP. I'm just reading about his LEAP course. So yeah.
Okay,
And
yeah,
it's
it's great.
sweeping the globe. Finally. Finally, it's sweeping the
Right.
globe. So
Yeah,
Olivia,
he was stressed because he couldn't get some places to post his book name because it had a swear word in it, but boy, that's the best use of the word damn that I've heard.
yeah.
So, Olivia, when people come to work with you, do they know their purpose at that point, or are they oh, I don't know, trying to figure it out?
It can really be either one. So if people are clear on their purpose, but they don't quite know how to get their wisdom out or want help doing that, then I can work with them. And sometimes that actually ends up refining their purpose, or they might even discover that it's not what they thought. And then if they don't know it at all, I can help with that as well to help them find out for themselves. Yeah. So we
How
have
often
lots
do
of
people think they know their purpose and then they find out that they really don't know it? Does that happen a lot?
it's about half and half in my experience. Yeah. I think we feel sometimes we do think we know it. And so when I was getting that my purpose was to bring love into business, but I was being guided to go into this sharing wisdom, I couldn't reconcile it for a while. And I was starting to think maybe it isn't bringing love into business. And then when I realized, oh, but I can do the platform and that will fulfill my purpose, then it made sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So what is the biggest challenge?
It's integrating the two things.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest challenge that people walk in with you, to you with? Is there one thing they come in and they say, this is my problem?
Yeah, I was surprised, but then when I thought about it, not so surprised. And it's really fear of stepping into that powerful place, and also imposter syndrome. So if we haven't really had anything to give us the authority, we kind of have to claim it, right? We have to just name it and do it, and then gain the authority from others. But it's an inside job, and a lot of times it's family messages or failures that make people afraid to step into who they are, which is why the karma or the get it done in this life motivates me, because I do work through lots of fears around this stuff and have had every issue that people who come to me have, which is, I was the third sister in a family. I was the youngest girl, so I got stepped on a lot for showing up too much or being too talkative or active, right? I was like this young bubbly kid, and they were always trying to push me down, so that became hard.
Yeah, I think it happens to everybody. And imposter syndrome is one of those things where as you progress up in your career or up in your life, as things change, it's like an onion, you peel it off and you get to that next layer, and here comes imposter syndrome again.
Exactly.
Again,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why I love Marianne Williamson's quote. It's like playing small, and who are you not to be the greatest version of yourself, or something like that. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's just so empowering. And when I read that, I thought, oh, if I shine my light, that gives other people permission. It's not like if they're threatened by it, then that's their issue. And that was a hard one for me to get.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot who it is out there that talks about it, who says that when you that people are out there spending money to buy products and services to get whatever result it is that they want. And they'll keep buying and buying and buying until they find the right person to give them exactly what they need. So, and people are waiting for you, whether you're in products, Adrian Barker, or as I'm calling you out because I know you're watching, whether you're, selling promo products or whether you're selling, a widget or whether you're doing plumbing or whatever, people are waiting for the right people to connect with. It really is all a spiritual journey, and they will go from this plumber to that plumber to this, from this promo product person to that promo product person until they find, or this coach to that coach, until they find the right one. And they waste a lot of time and a lot of money if you're not speaking your message well.
Right. I totally agree. And I've had that experience myself. And I think we really just want to be seen. And so the person that can see us or pull the best out of us is going to be the one to whom we give our money. And have that joy and happiness in doing it. I agree, totally agree.
So how much?
Yesterday, I had the chance to talk to a young man, and we were talking. One of the things that we were talking about is that we all tend to speak in our own voice. I call it a voice. It's how we talk. But you know what? They have proven over 2,500 years ago that there are 4 distinct voices. Hippocrates called them the temperaments. And when you're only talking in one, what about the other 3? And he was like, oh, right. And it just really hit him that, oh, right. If you don't know how to talk to the other 3, you're missing, especially if you're in sales. Or if you're in a relationship, if you have somebody that's the opposite, like I look back on my husband and I realize now that we were totally opposite voices. And it was like, oh, which is why we ran into trouble sometimes. So,
well, and I think that art. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And I actually think I try to practice a lot of just being curious and asking questions. And being a data scientist and being paid for what I knew, it was a real shift for me to just not fix things for people, but to help them fix it for themselves. I mean, that's sort of the essence of coaching. Was a great teacher for me because she would call up and complain, and usually I just want to offer a solution. That's just the way I was trained. And one time she called and she goes, I'm going to complain. She says, Olivia, I'm going to complain, but I don't want you to fix it. And I thought, why wouldn't she want that, right? But I just bit my tongue and I let her keep talking. And after a while, I realized she came to a solution herself, and it was better than I would have suggested. And I went, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So now I just try to ask questions and be a good listener and respond back with what I'm hearing. So if that's helping or not, but I think people want to be heard more than anything in their life. I really do. And that brings them happiness.
Right.
Yeah. So how much do you think that the data that you've been able to gather, and you've gathered a lot of data, how much do you think the data you've been able to gather has impacted the way that you help people to be able to communicate their wisdom?
That's a great question because I've never really thought about it. And it is how my mind works. So I feel like because I've read lots of different books and I've listened to lots of lectures, I've pieced together. So I'm kind of a pattern person. Like I see big systems. And when something makes sense, when everything clicks, it makes sense. And then I feel like that's when I know I've hit the right solution. And many of what you're saying about different styles of communication and ways to interact have begun to really make the most sense based on all my research. So I didn't even think of them as data points, but they absolutely are. And then tapping in, because the thing about data is it doesn't really respect our higher knowing or intuition. And that's where I feel like I've added value to that, checking in internally and validating for myself or from some higher source, and then just testing it and see if it works. So it's a bit of like taking data that I know, but also trial and error, because I feel like everybody's a little unique, and some things work with some people and some things work with others.
Right.
And let's face it, everything in life is data. Whether you want to use it, for statistical information, or whether you want to use it to find out if, your kids will eat green beans, it's all data, right? Everything, right? Everything we look at and everything we do and everything we use is data. So it's important to pay attention to it because it gives us the clues as to whether we're on the right track or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, because it just occurred to me that I often think in probabilities. Somebody will say, is that going to happen or not? And I go, well, I think there's about an 80% chance or 10% chance, right? And I think that comes from my training of it, but I didn't really think about that before.
So if somebody's trying to figure it out, they go, I'm not in the right place right now. I know that I think I know where I'm going, but I'm not really quite sure where I'm going. What would be one piece of advice you'd give to them?
Well, I encourage people to quiet their mind and then maybe write about just what comes through. So that can help people sort of find a sense of direction. A little exercise that I do with my clients, which I think is really powerful, is take a few minutes and write down how you would love to be remembered. Maybe you could think of it as your eulogy, even though that might sound morbid, but it's a really powerful way to get down to beyond your wealth and your physical belongings. Like, how would you like to be remembered in history? Because it can help us tune into what we find the most important for our life. So that's one of the things I suggest to people if they're really just lost.
That's a really good exercise. I don't know about you, Barb, but I've done that myself.
I have done that.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
powerful. It was powerful because and I think part of it is to just sit back, and because everything, like they always say, and I think I'm trying to think of who it was that, maybe it was Abraham Hicks, everything that we know and want and deserve is within us already. We just have to tap into it. And I think what you said is just absolutely, is that sitting back and tapping into it, and by writing it down, getting it out of up here to here and then onto paper, it just makes it so much more real, don't you think?
Yeah, and if that feels just like too difficult for people, that's where I say just start writing without thinking, like the morning pages idea, where you get up the first thing in the morning
thinking
and you can just
Yeah.
And I found, so I did that for 30 days. I still do it pretty often, but I did a marathon where I just, when I first started, where I would just say, I am writing, I am writing, I am writing, just to get the pen moving. And then these nuggets started coming through, and I didn't even know it till later when I went back and I went, oh, that came through me. Wow. And I wrote a little ebook about one of the steps that I found useful in there. So it can sort of free up, get our ego out of the way. I think that's judging us that we don't know anything, just kind of bypass that and access that wisdom that we all have.
It's really interesting. As you were talking about this, I had a session with a coach one time who gave me this exercise, and I wish I could remember what Jackie. I don't remember her last name. I'll have to look it up and I'll put it in the show notes. But she gave me an exercise where it's for 14 days, and you use 2 different colors of ink, and you go to someplace that makes you happy. You'd be like in your house where you do your work and all that stuff. You have to go someplace where it makes you happy, where you can just kind of free your mind. 14 days in a row. And you write a question in one color ink, and then whatever the response is, you write it in a different color ink. And you do this, an interview basically with yourself. And then and don't look at it. After 14 days, you go back and you look, and there's a ton of different nuggets in there. I mean, like a ton. Yeah, it's a really, really great exercise. And I do it every couple months or so, because as I'm transitioning, I change, right? We all change as we go along, and we get different pieces of wisdom. And to understand where you're going and and how you're going to get there, the knowledge comes, we're talking about tapping into the super conscious, and the knowledge will come to you. You just have to tap into it.
Yeah.
So It's a great exercise. I really love
Right.
doing.
Oh, that's
It's all
great.
it's all there. It's
Yeah.
all there. But
Hmm.
I have to admit, I like the writing exercise. One time I was so angry, and now I don't even remember what I was angry about. But I was like, and I remembered my coach saying, when you are so, write it down. I mean, I ripped the paper. I was so mad. But it was such a release.
Mm.
And so if we can do that in emotion, that inner emotion that's keeping us stuck because we're
Hmm.
that fear that you talked about, that I think is what can help to release that. Is that when we just to get the pen starting, and it can help to release that fear that is keeping us that who am I to think that I can make a difference in this?
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
where
and
that
that goes
imposter syndrome comes in. Who am I that I think I can make a difference,
well, and
especially in the
it's funny
world?
because some people that I have worked with say that's what that was one of the messages they got as a child was this, who do you think you are, right? Like many people heard that, and I think that stays deep in our subconscious or unconscious until we realize it's holding us back. And like Marianne Williamson says, I think we're all children of God, and who are we not to be fabulous, successful,
Yeah,
have everything? We really have that as our birthright, I feel. And all of our work is just getting things out of the way so we can express ourselves and bring our wisdom forth. So, yeah.
So how do you get people out of that fear mode?
There's a couple energy techniques that I've studied. So I might have them do practices. But one of the things, I don't know if you've ever done tapping,
Mhm.
EFT kind of stuff.
yeah,
I studied a
EFT.
variation on it called Clear. So that's what I would help people learn how to do that for themselves or work with them if it's very deep trauma, things like that. And then another thing I love to do, and I think it's based on Abraham's work, Abraham Hicks, is the positive aspects. So
Mm.
if somebody's really blocked or frozen, I have them imagine that what they wanted to do is already true, which is really true in the etheric, right? And
Right.
then write down all the wonderful things. So when I was writing my book, Love at Work, I was sharing personal things, and I'd never done that in a book before, and I was really hitting a lot of blocks. So I kept doing the positive aspects where I'd say, now that my book is done, I can go onto Amazon and see it there and enjoy the reviews. Now that my book is done, I can celebrate and have more time and, just try to be in that energy. Then that can pull forward and get us through blocks that might be tripping us up.
Right.
So that's one of the techniques. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So where can people get Love at Work? Do you still offer it?
Yes, it's on Amazon. You can just go by my name or Love at Work. It has an @ sign, so it might be better to go look up Olivia Parr and then you can find it. And there's also the Love at Work method, which is the 4 steps that I came up with. So there's more exercises in the workbook. And then also I have a bunch of free ebooks on my website. If you go to wisdomology.com, there's a free ebook to help you bring your wisdom forward. It's a lot of the techniques that I teach and work with clients, and a bunch of other ebooks. I wrote one which I love called Highalogue, Highalogue, which I came up, that was one of the things I sort of channeled, where it was a way to communicate in these divisive times and really stay in our heart space while we're connecting with people to try to, keep the division from separating us. So yeah, so I just invite people to go and get my free ebooks and enjoy.
Give us the site again.
Well, if you go to oliviapr.com, that's my main website, and all my ebooks are there. Just click on ebooks. Or if you just go to Wisdomology, you'll be brought to a landing page if you just want to get that book.
How did you come up with Wisdomology? It's a great name.
Thank you. I was actually doing a course with Tom Poland, and he had Leadsology. And I thought, oh, yeah, if I just put ology on the end, it kind of looks at it like a science. And I'm a scientist, so I figured, well, I'm kind of trying to approach it somewhat scientifically, but with an open heart. So that's kind of how I came up with that.
Yeah. Ology is the study of, so it's a study of wisdom. Fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, what are you most excited about right now?
Well, we shared a little bit before we got started that I am really passionate about all this global research, and I just see such a bright future for us. And it's going to be a little challenging for the next few weeks and maybe a month. And then the freedom we're going to have, and it's just going to be a birth for so many creative projects, and there'll be people that will be, let's say, maybe surprised and somewhat traumatized. And so this will be a time when our wisdom is so important, and our ability to communicate with an open heart. And I feel like there will be a need for wisdom in such a huge way, because we get to create heaven on earth, is what I'm seeing. And I'm very excited about that.
And as always, if you're not getting the help you need, reach out to somebody for help, right? I mean, that's what we all do. All of us are here because we're in service of the world. So if you're out there and you could use some help, reach out to Olivia, reach out to Barbara, reach out to me, and get the help you need. It's interesting. Somebody sent me an email the other day that said, everywhere in life, people go out and they get help. If you get a health condition, you go out and get help. If your car isn't working, go out and get help. If your plumbing isn't working, go out and get help. But when it comes to you personally, you don't spend the money to go out there and get help, or you don't even reach out. And entrepreneurs are by far the worst. So reach out for help. I mean, that's what we're all here in service of. So just want to mention that.
Yeah.
Well, Olivia, thank you so much
You
for
know,
being
and
here.
can I just add one little thing to that, Pat?
Of course.
One of the things about getting help, and I am a firm believer in the barter system.
Mm.
If you have something that you know that is really good and you need help with something else, see if there's somebody out there that is willing to trade with you. That has just exploded with me. I've got a couple of people right now that we're trading things, and it was like, oh wow, because you know what, right now so many people are suffering financially.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? But the start of it is to just reach out and say, hey, I need help with this. Is there somebody? And then this is what I do. You would be amazed at the people who want what you play at.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So that's my little thing of tip to go forward. Reach out to people.
Just make sure it's fair
They're
trade.
people love to help. They really are. And that's where the love in the workplace comes in. People love to help you. But
Yeah.
they can't help you if they don't know.
Well, and with us being somewhat sequestered in our homes, it's just so much more important to connect.
Right.
And if we can do it this way, the quantum field, we're all really one. So we can connect with our hearts deeply, I feel, and get help, even though we can't maybe physically do that. So it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Olivia. This was great.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Great.
You're a real shining light out there in the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, you both are as well. And I'm so pleased that we've connected and we can help be in service in this way. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Miss Barb, any last parting words?
Hey, if you're here, thank you for coming. If you're listening to the replay, put a little note, you know where, and let us know that you're here.
And hashtag replay.
And hashtag replay. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. With that, have a wonderful day, everybody. Make sure that you go out and do something good, be of service to somebody today. Even if it's not in your primary business, go out, do some good in the world. That's what we're all here for, right? Use your wisdom in a way that makes the community and the world and your immediate, family unit really grateful that you're here for the day.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you know what, sometimes you can go out, like I have found, you can go out to do something good for somebody else and you will run into somebody that needs your service.
That's exactly right.
It's synergy.
Sure is.
It absolutely works.
Yeah.
Because
Gotta love
we
energy.
are absolutely all connected.
We are. Have a good day, everybody.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
good one.
you.